All right, here we go. And should I introduce you as Mike Oppenheim?
Yeah,
Perfect. That's good. All
perfect.
right, and I
Yep.
changed it for you. I went by your website. It said you were an editor, you're an indexer, so I took all that off.
Cool.
All
Thanks. I
all
appreciate
right,
it.
here we go. And let's see. Let's go. You listen to It Came From the Radio. You know this is Dr. FeLdy. I'm here with Mike Oppenheim. He's an author, filmmaker, and podcaster with several books under his belt that you can find at mikeyup.com. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me on.
How y'all doing today?
I'm doing really well, actually. It's nice and sunny here in Arizona.
Nice. And probably a lot hotter here than New York, but we're not going to talk about the weather, listeners. Don't worry about this. Let's get right into it. So now on his website, he wrote a piece, Six Things I've Learned About Sadness. Now we all have things that make us sad. I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, I reckon if there's a human here that is not sad about something. I had two of my closest family members battling cancer during the pandemic, and we all have things to battle about sadness. You can see on his blog, he actually had a son who was abducted, so that's gotta make you sad. So I have a question to you. So now, what are some effective ways to live a productive and meaningful life while managing sadness?
Yeah, I would say the real thing that I would recommend to people is don't try to manage sadness. Just let it be its thing. So the fear of sadness, the fear of any emotion, anger, sadness, pain, is not an emotion, but the fear of pain, it doesn't get you anywhere. And you just end up experiencing something twice. So with sadness, it's a normal emotion. And sometimes it hits you because like a show you like isn't going to continue on the television, and it also can hit you when your son is abducted. It's not really relevant what causes it. It's more relevant that you face it and let it do its thing. And you don't talk to it and you don't combat it and you also don't reject it. You just sit there and let it do its thing. So you do end up working and living a productive life if you take that approach, in my opinion.
Great. Now, what shows that have ended have made you sad?
I'm trying to think. Plenty, but it's kind of like you missed an old gang or a group of friends or something like that. If you're used to seeing something, I would say like probably Seinfeld and The Office. Those are two.
I miss an old gang. I used to be part of MS-13. I miss those days. Just kidding, listeners. All right, so let's go back to his website. It's more about our guest today, not me. Now, on your podcast, you interviewed a filmmaker named Seth who talked about speaking with angels. Do you believe in angels? Do you believe angels are around you or me? Or why do I know?
Um, I think yes and no. I would say like I don't believe in angels as like normally displayed in like our Western culture. Like I don't think they have like big wings or a halo above their head. But I do believe there's energy, and I believe there's dimensions of existence based on quantum mechanics and things I've read. So it seems pretty silly. Just like you can't see a germ in the air, but a germ will certainly make you sick. We may not be able to see spirits, as we call them, or just things that are not in our matter location, but they could be here. So to the actual point of angels, yes, I think that you're not alone. I think that there's a cohort of entities and you are one of them and they are one of you, and we're all kind of interacting with each other, and there's some weird experience going on
Hmm.
here on earth, but enough people feel it and think about it and say it, and it's in so many language groups and cultures across the world that I just think it's more likely than not that there are things we could call angels.
Hmm. Now, what's one reason that you write? What's your biggest reason for writing and putting your thoughts out there?
I am compelled. I really don't have a better answer than that. When I think about quitting, which is often because it's just, you know, uh, writing in the year 2024, it's a real chore. No one really wants to read. People want to watch TV. People want to listen to things. And I also do, but I also love reading. And it was one of my first loves. And so anytime I think about quitting, I can't because there's something inside me like an energy and I want to release it. And the best way to release it is to write, whether it's with a pen or on a laptop, it doesn't matter. And sometimes when I'm walking, I'm not thinking as much as I'm writing in my head, if that makes any sense. So I just think I'm a writer. It's just, it hit me. It's what I have to do.
And remember, rehab is for quitters. Now, what's your favorite book that you wrote and why?
My favorite book would be my third book, Too True to Be Good. And the reason it's my favorite is that I did a lot of research for it and I felt like it was an important subject to write about. So all my books are about very different things and most of my books are very funny. And this one is a lot more serious and it's about the prison system specifically in America. And I think what I wanted to do was um, I wanted to write it. I did a lot of research and it's just the prison system's terrible. And no matter who you are and what you did, you're going to go in there and you're going to have to face things that are going to make you probably less compassionate, less kind, and less good. So it doesn't seem like it's rehab. And if it's not rehab, why don't you just call it like go here to die camp or something, you know? But we don't do that. We have this kind of in between thing. So I'm also someone who, like, you know, back when marijuana wasn't legal, I was smoking it all the time, and I always in the back of my head was like, this is such a ripoff. Like this culture of ours, if I get pulled over and things don't go my way, and especially if I don't have enough money for a good lawyer and representation, I could serve serious hard time. So I did a lot of research and I wrote a novel about something similar to that, but not quite as loose as, you know, just pot. But yeah.
Right. I mean, well, I could get into a whole bunch of information about my past lives, about growing pot, maybe near Homeland Security. It's out of the statute of limitations, but we'll do that another day. Now, back to your podcast. Now, you interviewed a psychic, Jamie Lynn. What predictions do you recall that she had for the 2024 year or maybe even beyond?
The one that I liked the most that really stood out, and it is already coming true, is she said there would be a lot more headlines about airplanes. She said things with airplanes were going to get really weird and not good. And we've already had the whistleblower who committed suicide, giant air quotes for people listening. And you know, there's just like the door falling off the back of the plane, things like that. So that was one. That was the one that stood out the most to me. And then as far as a longer term prediction, she does seem to think, and so do a lot of other psychics I've interviewed for the same podcast, that there's going to be rough times ahead, but a smooth, great time ahead of after that. So if you're here and you make it, it sounds like it should be pretty rad. And that would be like in the 2030 to 2040 range when things get better again.
I've heard similar. Psychic Shira Benedito, she said similar. She said, if you want to do some travel, you might want to get it out of the way before the end of the year. But I don't think I want to have it now. They had an engine fall out, they had a door fall off. I think there was a wheel that fell off, all from Boeing, which used to be the number one
Yeah.
rated, which is now number two rated. It's probably going to go even lower. And the man who committed suicide, I think 3 days before his untimely death, he told his family that if any and people he knew, if anything happens to him, it's not a suicide. And he was trying to up the quality control, and
Yeah.
we don't really have quality control at this radio station, so I'll just put that right there. So, let's get on to the books that you wrote titled Dysfunction. So, the Dysfunction book, I'll just read you the summary. Let me try and make it as soothing and relaxing as possible. On July 4th, 2025, Earth experienced a devastating series of geomagnetic storms due to a series of solar flares and solar coronal mass ejections. Scientists had long predicted such events, but there was no way to predict their onset, and thus no warning system was developed. Earth's magnetic field was severely disrupted, and most of the Western Hemisphere was decimated. Years later, remnants of a small colony of people, including their diaries, was found underneath the Hoover Dam in the southwestern desert of what had previously been known as Las Vegas, Nevada. This is the story of 8 humans who were trapped under the Hoover Dam for more than 60 years. And the strangest part of all, it's funny. Woo! Now, I heard firsthand back in 2008 about a woman taking out millions of dollars from her accounts from an ex boyfriend of mine, another life's financial firm to build a bunker. This was 2008 we were hearing about this. Now, do you think these underground bunkers are necessary?
Necessary, no, but I have a feeling a lot of rich people are either planning how they're going to get to Mars or how they're going to get underground. I think the writing is on the wall. Speaking of what we just talked about with the next 8 years, the whole travel thing, the airplanes things. I'm not like a doomsday naysayer kind of person. I'm a super optimist. So I wrote the book as fiction, but I did kind of like, I've been pretty premonition based my whole life, just about like trends and things. So I would say the trend of people seeking safety in a world, and especially our culture, America, that's going to be less and less safe. Whether it's weather related or not, I don't know. That's kind of like far fetched to me. But the premise for the novel is more about just how crazy people would go if they're forced to live together in. And what I wanted to do was they're trapped in a bunker that's for 1,000 people. So it's not like it's space is an issue. They're not like crowded. It's not like people on a spaceship. It's they have abundance. They have like a liquor cabinet with like enough liquor for 1,000 people for 100, for 10 years. So food is not scarce, but what is scarce is sanity. And so that's kind of the premise and how the novel works out.
The ironic thing about spacecraft? very much room, very much space on a spacecraft.
Yeah, yeah,
But
totally.
it's a name. So we're getting to the end of the interview now. Anything on your heart, on your mind today that you would like to share? I'll just throw it back to you. You could say whatever you'd like to share with the audience.
Yeah, I'm a peaceful, compassionate, loving hippie, and I just want everyone to know that no matter how dark anything is around you or how dark your heart feels, reach out and seek support and friendship and collaboration. And collaboration doesn't mean people supporting everything you think. Collaboration means they challenge you and they help you think about different modes and avenues for how to conduct yourself. You're always growing. You're just a little kid who calls themselves an adult at this point, but you know how it feels. You're on the inside, you're wide eyed. This world is changing, and we're all here for as long as we're here for. So be nice to people if you can.
Yeah, the world's changing fast. Being nice helps too. And also, one thing I do is you could change up your hair, change up your face, change up your body, change up your whole persona. A lot of times, if you change your physiology and physical, the mind will shift as well, and that shifts your neurotransmitters. So, whatever you can change, if you need a change, not, there's all this talk about change in our culture, but that's insinuating that we need to change. So, if you do want to change it, I'm not going to be pushing that rhetoric on you. Change your physical. That could change your mental. If you can't change your physical, maybe change your mental. Change what you can, and the rest will follow. That'll be my final thought on this, and we'll throw it back to our guest to list your socials, your website. Where can people find you?
Yeah, the best way to find me is at my website, mikeyop.com, www.mikeyop.com. You can find my original videos, music, podcast, essays, books, and other crap that I make because life is fun.
But it's not crap. I read part of it, listened to part of it, and
Thanks.
and I was quite amused and interested. And he's philosophical and into the psychological, and you can tell he's someone that seems to be more solutions minded than chaos minded, and we need more of that in this world. People are looking for solutions and putting themselves out there. Well, a little truth because we could all learn from each other's experience. And so, on that note, this has been Dr. FeLdy. I came from the radio and back to the studio. Mark.